I think that Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively have what it takes to bring these characters to life, and I cannot wait for you guys to see that happen. I'm going to do my best to sneak y'all as much footage as I can without getting kicked off the set. I'm so excited, y'all. Like, I can't even wrap my mind around this, that I'm going to get to go on set, that I got to read the amazing script, and I know y'all are going to be happy. Y'all are going to be happy.
Hey besties, welcome back to my channel. We've got some hot tea piping for you today, and it's related to the smear campaign against Blake Lively. That never happened. At least that's what the evidence suggests, provided by Wayfarer's publicist, Jen Abel. Jen Abel is the first on tap today with a summary judgment against Stephanie Jones. Now, if you're aware, Stephanie Jones isn't actually a party to this lawsuit. Why? Well, because Blake Lively decided not to sue her, despite the fact that Jen Abel actually was working for JonesWorks. During the promotion of the film, It Ends With Us, Blake made the choice not to actually sue the PR firm, the entire firm that represented him. And the evidence that we have seen in the summary judgment shows Jen Abel was not the only one at JonesWorks working on this case. Jen Abel was not the only one driving decisions about this promotion. And what it also shows is, at least what Jen has provided, no smear campaign actually happened. But most importantly, at least in this, it's related to Jen trying to hold her employer accountable and ensuring that her employer must indemnify her for the claims that Lively has made against Jen Abel. So what Jen Abel's actually asking the court for is for them to give her a conditional summary judgment on one count that is a part of a three-part third-party complaint. And in this, what it is asking them to say is that she is common law indemnified, meaning that because she was in a relationship with JonesWorks and she was doing work for JonesWorks, and liability for her work with JonesWorks is the reason why she's in court, she's asking the court to say, I've met the burden here. There's no dispute of material facts. And even though we haven't yet determined if I'm liable because Blake's case hasn't gone to trial, it should be noted that it's in my benefit, it's in Stephanie Jones's benefit, and it's also in Blake's benefit to know who ultimately is on the hook for the damages. One, so Blake knows who's going to pay her if anyone's liable. Two, so Stephanie Jones can decide, what she's going to do about that. And three, so Jen herself can prepare. And they say that if you won't, and they give a bunch of case law for why this should be allowed. But then on top of that, they say, if you can't decide this right now, we ask that you hold this in, just hold on to this for a minute until we go to trial. And if I'm found liable, then rule in my favor and give me a summary judgment. So then Miss Lively will go to JonesWorks for payment. Okay. There's a lot of things that are interesting here. And more than anything, you guys, what I'm noticing is that there really isn't a smear campaign. I mean, we've kind of known this the whole time, but I think their preliminary statement gives us a good understanding of where they're going to be going in other areas. Now, mind you, this is only between Abel and Jones for if Jones is on the hook for damages again. Okay. It has nothing to do with Blake. It's not a summary judgment against Blake yet. And if this is an indication of what might be coming down the pipe, we might see that each individual in this case will seek their own separate summary judgment, which could make it quite easy, might make it easier for each individual. We'll see though. But they said that Abel was employed by JonesWorks to render public relations services to its clients, such as Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios. Okay. At JonesWorks' direction, Abel performed public relations activities for the Wayfarer clients, including in connection with the film It Ends With Us. In late June, early August 2024, public commentary circulated concerning purported on-set strife between Baldoni and the film's co-star plaintiff Blake Lively. Abel and other JonesWorks employees discussed how to garner positive publicity and to minimize negative publicity for the Wayfair clients, as was within Abel's scope of employment within JonesWorks. In breach of JonesWorks' contractual and fiduciary duties to the Wayfair clients, JonesWorks' chief executive officer, Stephanie Jones, inexplicably and covertly advised Lively of the Wayfair's clients' public relations activities. Lively then caused her entity Van Zandt Inc. to commence a frivolous lawsuit in New York State against John Doe's, devoid of any reference to the Wayfair clients or Abel. JonesWorks participated in the hoax orchestrated by Lively by generously complying with a knowingly invalid subpoena from Van Zandt, which sought the Wayfair clients and Abel's communication, and which any other recipient, therefore, would have moved to quash. So we're learning now that it's not just Abel's phone, but they're also looking for Wayfair clients' communications. Okay. Based upon those communications, Lively manufactured a claim against Abel for allegedly aiding and abetting retaliation when, in truth, Abel was merely in standard public relations activities. Abel's actions at issue were all undertaken as a JonesWorks employee within the scope of her employment and were foreseeable by and known to JonesWorks. Therefore, under well-established New York law, she's entitled to common law indemnification from JonesWorks, regardless of whether Jones realized at the time that Jones betrayed her then clients, the Wayfair clients, that her unwavering alliance with Lively resulted in JonesWorks' own potential liability. So that actually makes me kind of like happy because it's pointing out the obvious. So you betrayed your client, Stephanie, unknowingly knowing, I guess, unknowingly knowing, fabricating this whole con job that you're going to sue Abel under the pretense that she went outside of the scope of her job. That's the premise of the entire lawsuit for why she's suing Abel, is to try to minimize her liability against Blake. It feels like both parties sort of conspired here together. So like Blake's like, well, I'm not going to hold you accountable if you comply here, Stephanie Jones. And if you comply here, blah, blah, blah. And then, well, Stephanie Jones is like, well, wait, I need to find a way to not have to be liable since I'm her employer. So then she fabricates this lawsuit against Abel to try to paint Abel as the nefarious smear campaign or whatever. But the whole thing is orchestrated by the two of them, according to Wayfair, as for them to like cover up the fact that JonesWorks breached the responsibilities to her client, Wayfair. Okay. But what's more interesting about this, I think, is that Jen's employment contract, her NDA, Wayfair's employment or their contract with JonesWorks are provided to prove. So summary judgment is there not to sort of like go through the law, it's about the facts, right? So they're saying these are the facts of what I have. And these are the facts that prove that I need to be indemnified. But interestingly, these same facts kind of poke the holes at the entire concept of a smear campaign. She goes as far as to describe what the requirements were for the agreement between Wayfair and JonesWorks, and Wayfair was paying $25,000 a month. And what they were supposed to be doing was assisting in developing, writing, and updating communications materials related to press and outreach, advising on marketing and campaign strategies, brand messaging consistent with opportunities maximized and the strongest press angles aligned, conduct media monitoring and competitor tracking for industry press, conduct regular check-ins, and surrounding the status of their projects, events, and news. And then Wayfair presents a declaration by Jen Abel, which outlines all of her evidence that proves what she was doing was actually for JonesWorks because she was fulfilling JonesWorks' contract with Wayfair, right? And so and the only reason she's there is because she's hired by JonesWorks as the VP of whatever it is, PR in the California office, okay? And that she was always supposed to be working in California. And this was one of her primary clients, but it was Stephanie Jones that assigned her to this file. So had she not worked for JonesWorks, she wouldn't have never established a relationship with Wayfair. She goes through what the terms of the agreement were, how the contract worked, how her contract worked, and then it breaks down what it was that she was doing throughout that process that was proving that the work was for Jones Works. And this is what also proves that there was no smear campaign, because when you look through the evidence and you see in the full text string of like with all those little cherry picked things that Blake had said, that looked really bad when you just saw it, the one comment, but you see it in like the 15 pages of text that it were part of, you realize all of this was just fabricated by her. And what's even more telling is now that we know that Blake has all this evidence and she's still unwilling to abandon the smear campaign, it's bad. I mean, the longer she digs her heels in, the more expensive she's making this for everyone. And Wayfarer could get their attorney's fees paid for by Blake if she loses. Some of this is like, sealed, so we can't see it. But she admits that on July 31st, she texted Jamie at Wayfarer about a conversation that she had with an independent journalist concerning the exclusion of Baldoni from the film-related promotions, and that such journalist was willing to publish a story of Lively's misconduct. So she acknowledges she had this conversation with this journalist, but she says that she never followed up on the matter or referred the journalist to anyone else, and the story was never published. So she told them about what was going on, but in order for the journalists to do their job, they would have had to speak to other people on the set, and they would have to provide, like sources to them. And she said, I didn't tell them who to call. I didn't put them in connection with anyone. So therefore nothing happened. So that's the like proof that she says that Jen planted stories, but Jen's saying no story was ever published. And then she says on August 2nd, the tag group sent Abel a scenario planning document referencing an objective to protect the reputation of Wayfarer clients in the lead up, during, and following the premiere of the film and related goals. The scenario planning document was shared with Abel because she was a Jones Works employee responsible for providing public relations services to email or Wayfarer clients. And they had a thread that Stephanie set up. So Stephanie set up an email like box that basically had all the parties that were involved in this group from Jones Works, including Stephanie, this guy named Matthew Mitchell, and Jen Abel. And then Melissa Nathan was added, and then, tags other two, Brianna Coslow and Katie Case, are added as well. And then you see like you've got the Wayfarer people are also added in there. And Jen is saying that that whole communications box that was done through Jones Works was set up directly by Stephanie, and Stephanie was copied on every single email or message that was coming in or out. So Stephanie knew the entire time everything that was going on, every single aspect of it. So she makes clear that on August 5th, there was a notification that Sony of the film had an issue with the word friction being used in the press interviews about the on-set relationship between Baldoni and Lively, and Abel proposed the word challenge as a compromise to downplay the social media speculation of an on-set feud, and to highlight that as a director of the film, Baldoni successfully brought all people together to create something beautiful in the film. So what her job was is to like satisfy what Sony wanted them to say and to correct the messaging so that they could satisfy Sony, they could keep Blake happy, everyone's working together. And that's what she said she did for Sony. And then she has the text chain that shows exactly what occurred at that time. Justin Baldoni, for some reason, she has him listed as Henny Grace. Justin Baldoni and Jen Abel. So this is between the two of them. It says Sony's having a hard time with the word friction. They think it would be taken out as clickbait. They obviously don't know about our strategy, but let's stick to the words of challenge and the role you had as director to get everyone to come together and to be on the same page to create something beautiful. Love that you're saying about the intimacy coordinators and stunt coordinators and how involved Blake was in the scenes to ensure everyone felt safe. That you took a step back, that's excellent. So she's letting Justin know and correcting it so that moving forward, this is what he says, and that he doesn't throw anyone under the bus or even suggest there's any kind of like issues on the set. And that's where the famous like Hailey Bieber thing is shared. This is what we would need. And Jen says, yes, I spoke to Melissa about this on the break, and that we discussed last night for social and digital, focus on Reddit, TikTok, and IG. And then he talks about an interview, and that's it. And then there's a close-up of what was said about Hailey Bieber. Okay. So long story short is that whole Hailey Bieber thing that Blake is using to prove that they smeared her and that they planted the story like of her as a bully never went any further than that. Okay. On August 7th, she exchanged text messages with JonesWorks employees Matthew Mitchell, Tag, Melissa Nathan, Katie Case, and Brianna Koslow about online narrative concerning Baldoni and Lively's separate promotion of the film, and as opposed to both of them being present. And then on August 7th, Case sent Heath and Abel at her JonesWorks email addresses an email referring to the social and digital mitigation and remediation and public narratives concerning Baldoni and Wayfarer. The email was sent to Abel because she was a JonesWorks employee providing public relations services to the Wayfarer clients. So they're not sending it to Jen's Gmail account. They're not sending it to some personal text number. This is going directly to her inbox with JonesWorks. On August 8th, she sends a text between her to her JonesWorks co-employee Mitchell and Tag employees Nathan and Case, and then that's blacked out. Taking note of negative public commentary about Baldoni was a key part of Abel's duties as a JonesWorks employee performing public relations services for her clients. So a lot of what she ends up filing is under seal. So we don't get to see what everything is, but what she attaches there is sort of a copy of or what their contract with JonesWorks was and what the expectations were for JonesWorks to provide services to Wayfarer. Then she discusses exchanging text messages with Nathan concerning articles about a rift or feud between Baldoni and Lively, as well as other potential media coverage of the situation. On August 10th, she exchanges text messages with Heath, Mitchell, and Nathan concerning a Hollywood Reporter article and TikTok videos related to Lively and or Baldoni. The TikTok video from May 17th, 2023, included within the text chain, shows Baldoni and Lively in a pleasant atmosphere on the set of the film. The Hollywood Reporter article discusses why it was important for Baldoni to make a movie about domestic violence. On August 11th, and in her capacity as an employee, she advised Wayfarer via a text message about, and that's blacked out, redacted. Abel exchanged text messages on August 13th with Heath, Baldoni, Mitchell, who was also not a party here, Case, Castle, and Nathan concerning a TikTok video praising Baldoni and another video criticizing Lively for her marketing of the film in a matter insensitive to domestic violence victims. On August 15th, they exchanged text messages with Heath, Baldoni, Mitchell, Case, and Koslow concerning the positive public comments made, and that's redacted. On August 18th, Abel exchanged text messages with Heath, Baldoni, Mitchell, Nathan, Koslow concerning TikTok videos related to the film. And the videos are from August 17th, 24, called the film One of the Best Movies Ever Made. JonesWorks profited from the foregoing work, and she was paid $25,000 per month. And her employment ended on August 21st, and until at least August 30th, JonesWorks was paid by Wayfarer. So even after Miss Abel left. And she says that she never boosted or amplified any negative content about Lively. Some of this, again, is redacted, but she notes that Blake provided testimony and responses to her interrogatories, and she alleged that Abel was responsible for public relations activities performed as a part of her employment with JonesWorks. And she asserts that each one of the complaints that Lively has made against her is really what she was doing to work for JonesWorks. And she says that this is why JonesWorks is responsible for the liability here, not me. So whether he'll rule on this ahead of time, I don't know. But what I find interesting is when I was sort of looking through some of these exhibits, nothing really jumped out at me in terms of it being like obvious that Blake was being smeared by them. And it really does go to show you that like she had this very robust NDA that she had to sign, Jen did. She provided a copy of the employment agreement or the public relations contract that Wayfarer signed, which was like year to year. She even provides the communication she sent about that phone call, and she's about that on July 31st, where she claims she spoke to someone. She said, confidentially, I'm out to dinner with a friend of 12 plus years who writes for People Magazine, Fox News, In Touch, Us Weekly. And she's fully briefed of the situation and is armed and ready to take the story of Blake weaponizing feminism to any of the outlets the minute we give her the green light. She hates Blake, has heard the story before, and will do anything for us, just FYI. So your call, Jamie, was perfectly timed. She's armed and ready. I'm going to connect with Melissa tomorrow just to have in our pocket. So this was like, if Blake does anything and if she exposes anything and she says anything, we're going to have this reporter put something out, and then Miss Abel asserts that nothing was published by this journalist. And that would be easy to prove with, like, by looking to see if that specific journalist published anything. She provided a copy of the scenario planning. Through all of these different exhibits, we learned that Blake was in with the Hollywood Reporter and was behind the articles that were coming out from the Hollywood Reporter that were painting Justin unfavorably and acting like he was the problem on the set. And we also find out that Sony's executive, Tom Rothman, is trying to get Blake to cut out her behavior and to stop leaking stories. So he's the chairperson for Sony Pictures Entertainment Motion Picture, the CEO. So the CEO of Sony was telling Blake that she needed to quit. Apparently, Tom Rothman is speaking to Leslie to get Blake to cut the shit. I think we can get through like this if we get that New York Post piece killed and Leslie agrees to a truce. So they started planting stories to get their side out and to paint Justin unfavorably through the Hollywood Reporter, through the Daily Mail, through all these different outlets. And the CEO of Sony had to step in and tell Blake to stop. That doesn't look good for Blake, right? And what I'm looking through when I'm looking through all of these, documents that Blake had once claimed were the proof of this smear campaign, all it is them monitoring what's going on, talking about all of these articles that are getting leaked by Blake about them. And every time they're like, we're not responding, we're not going to say anything. But this is where all of that same thing, this is where the Daily Mail article gets published. James reaches out for a comment. It's Stephanie's the one that instigates that with James. Stephanie calls Lillian at Daily Mail and gives them a story about Blake, which ends up destroying their truce, which was very fragile. But when you look at the whole, like the pages and pages and pages here, there's nothing here to prove that there was a smear campaign. And they were literally just talking about what Blake was doing and how they were going to respond to what Blake was doing. So much so that Sony had to get involved because of what Blake was doing. In another set, which is interesting, they're talking about, it shows Matthew Mitchell engaging, but it shows that Jamie Heath, Katie Case, Brianna B., Matthew Mitchell, who works for who? Jonesworks, was included in all of these. And no comments allowed, updated version. I like it way better. Honestly, it's gold. I mean, they're talking about what's happening out on social media. They're not sharing anything, but it's clear that Matthew was also making decision and was in the loop of what was going on. So it wasn't just Jen. And why is Matthew there? Because he works at Jonesworks, right? And another thing that's happening throughout this process is like Jamie and Justin specifically is reaching out sometimes like once every day to make sure that they're not using bots, that they're not leaving like comments, that they're not doing anything negative. There's multiple times that he's like, is this someone using bots? Are we using fake accounts? Can you please confirm that this is not what's happening here? Because I don't want to engage in this. And every time they're like, nope, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. So if there was a smear campaign, why is he constantly contacting all of these people and saying, please tell me you're not doing this? And they're like, we are not doing this. Like, here's an example. Hey, Tag, I've been seeing on IG comments on random posts defending me by people who are private with no followers and they feel like bots. Can you please confirm we are not doing any of that? I really don't want bots defending me as it feeds into their potential narrative. And Melissa says, I can confirm we do not have bots. This is not also what we do. Bots look fake to anyone. The other team is doing something very specific. Bots and fan accounts also run pretty organically by now with all AI platforms and Google Analytics itself. There's no bot army. That's a myth these days. Well, at least in her world. Another example is that on August 9th, someone from the Standard Company UK, Daniel Welsh, contacted Stephanie at Jonesworks, not Jen, and asked for a comment. And then Stephanie is forwarding it to Wayfarer Studios and their team and says, good morning from London. And she forwards it. Please see below inquiry. And then Matthew Mitchell says that he's going to handle it. So she's getting emails from press and she's directing her people to respond to these inquiries on August 9th. But she's not involved, you guys, right? She knew nothing of it. And specifically under the penalty of perjury, This is what Jen Abel declares. I never published, planted, or pitched any negative content about Lively. I never communicated or worked with any content creators to plant negative stories or comments about Lively. I never boosted or amplified any negative content about Lively. That's under the penalty of perjury. And all of her exhibits for each of the days that they were managing the press and the press inquiries, even the most damning content that Blake used to prove her like smear campaign, Jen provides to this court as her evidence that all of this was part of their normal work. She asserts, I am not at fault and bear no responsibility for her claims or the alleged loss or damages occurred by Lively because inter alia, I undertook the actions while I was an employee of JonesWorks and in the course of my employment for JonesWorks. None of my actions at issue were taken in pursuit of my own interests. JonesWorks foresaw my actions because JonesWorks directed me to render public relations services to the client, Wayfarer, because JonesWorks knew that I was rendering public relations services to the clients, and because my actions were not a significant departure from my normal method of performance of public relations duties or other JonesWorks employees. And then when you start reading through these text messages, you guys, Jen's just like trimming up what his responses are going to be. She's providing him talking points for interviews to ensure that like he stays on message and make sure that everything is professional, that what he's saying, what Wayfair says and what Justin is saying publicly are what Sony's expectations are, what meet Blake's expectations. Her job is to keep everyone happy and to keep on message and on brand. So that's what she was doing in these communications. She says JonesWorks knew that I was working with Baldoni on his press tour. Jones also knew that JonesWorks employees were monitoring social media activity concerning Baldoni and the film. Jones and other JonesWorks employees were handling press inquiries. So some of this is like filed under seal, so you can't see all of it. But the point that she's making here is that I wasn't the only one that was involved in this. Like we were all fielding responses, and Stephanie's divvying it out. And the chief of staff, Gordon, he's also sending us stuff. She talks about a press inquiry that was forwarded about alleged onset drama to the email distribution list that she had set up, which Matthew Mischel confirmed he would take, which I just showed you. And then she references that it was Jones herself that was trying to tell her what they should do to mitigate this. And it was Jones that was recommending to flood the zone with positives. It was Jones that said prepare alternative stories, mobilizing a robust network of supporters and third-party advocates ready to counter these narratives on deep background, as well as some on the record making it clear that the claims being made are untrue and unfounded. So it's really Jones that's like the one that's going to put content creators and say, we need to get a bunch of content creators and have them go to bat for you. We need a bunch of people that know you go to bat for you. We need to use all these people that are going to go on background, meaning they're going to talk to a journalist or someone, giving them the background story. They can be on or off record. So it could be a source or it could be them on record, but it's her that's telling this to Wayfair. This is what you need to do. And that she notes that she has successfully managed every crisis for Justin without any negative press coming to life. She also knew that they hired Melissa and she was included on emails with them. So she says, I am named as a defendant because of and as a direct consequence of the discharge being, I'm being sued because I left. She aired me out to Blake Lively because she betrayed her clients. She filed a baseless lawsuit against me to try to get out of her liability. And Blake then used what was given to her through the Van Zandt to file a frivolous lawsuit against me. And by the way, none of this is my fault. And if Blake wins, Stephanie has to foot the bill. And if you realize some of the stuff that Jen has put on record here is some of the stuff that Blake has tried to conceal when she files it. And she's like, oh, they want this under seal. They said that this is confidential. And all it shows is that there was no smear campaign at all. Like literally nothing. Nothing was going on. This is why Blake last week or all of these weeks has been trying to get ahead of all of these summary judgments because she knew it was coming. She knew that this wasn't going to look good for her, right? So that's what Jen Abel's got. And again, this is not against Blake, but what it tells me is that this is a teaser of what we should expect for tomorrow. And it suggests to me that Stephanie and Blake did conspire together. Absolutely. Each one of them suing as a way to sort of like get leverage over the other. So like Stephanie's lawsuit really is to try to get out of the fact that she's violated her contract. And so she has to claim that Justin sexually harassed, even though he didn't. And Blake has to justify getting all of this stuff and stealing all of this stuff. So for whatever reason, because of she needs someone to blame for the bad press. And then she finds 2 or 3 sentences in like dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens, hundreds of messages to piece together proof that she was smeared when she wasn't. It's bananas. And the truth is, it was Tom Rothman from Sony telling Blake to cut the shit. Wonder how Blake's going to think about that when that becomes public, because it just did. So tell me what your thoughts are about this. Do you think she's got a good case? And what do you think is going to happen tomorrow? Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed. And please click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, besties.